everyone. My name is Benjamin. Welcome to the Learn-at-Home Examination Readiness Series. Today, we will be solving past questions in English language with focus on Senior School Certificate Examination. At the last class, we were able to solve questions in Section 1 of the West African Senior School Certificate Examination, June 2012, English language test questions. In this edition, we are focusing on the same past questions from the West African Senior School Certificate Examination of June 2012, English language objective test questions. But in this edition, our focus will be on Section 2, which begins with question 11. To really follow this class, please use your past question compilation guide. This will enable you to follow me as I discuss the principles and answers to each question. I hope you are ready for this class. I can see you are all fully prepared. I am excited too. At the end of this class, you will be able to solve questions in Section 2 of the West African Senior School Certificate Examination of June 2012 English language. So let's get started with today's lesson. There are certain grammatical principles that we are going to look at that will help us to answer questions correctly in this section of the exam. And if you learn these grammatical principles, they will help you improve your English grammar for effective expression of your ideas in your everyday interaction with other English users. Now, the first grammatical principle we will be applying in this section is known as register. It is known as what? Register. What does register mean? Register is the use of language for a particular purpose or in a particular social situation. So repeat after me. Register is the use of language for a particular purpose or in a particular social situation. According to Jonathan Swift, a notable English scholar, register simply means putting proper words in proper places. So we shall be looking at register and how it applies to answering questions in Section 2 of this exam. The second grammatical principle we shall be examining is vocabulary. Of course, you are all conversant with vocabulary, especially as you have always learned new words whenever you are taught vocabulary development. Now, vocabulary has different shades of meaning. On the general level, it can refer to all the words in a language. In another sense, it can refer to all the words that a person knows and uses in a language. But in today's application, we are dealing with a different meaning or shade of meaning of vocabulary. Here we are referring to the words typically used when talking about a particular subject or field of study. For example, the vocabulary of agriculture, the vocabulary of politics, the vocabulary of sports. So that is our major focus when we talk about vocabulary in this lesson. The next grammatical principle we shall also be examining is what we earlier referred to in our previous class, and it is known as collocation. Can you still remember our definition of collocation? Who can remember among you how we define collocation? Okay. Now, we said that collocation refers to a group of words that usually go together. Just as human beings keep company with one another, certain English words tend to be used together frequently. And when two or three words are usually or frequently used together in sentences, such words are called collocates. Finally, we shall be mindful of the grammatical concept called semantics. Semantics simply means the meaning of a word, phrase, or text. So all these we shall be looking at as they apply to any of the questions we will be solving. Having said that, let's get started with solving the questions. First, we look at the instruction we are given in section 2. From the words lettered A to D, choose the word that best completes each of the following sentences. Question 11. When you dash someone's point of view, you should do so politely. So we are given a gap, and then we have to choose the option, choose a word that will best complete that gap. All right? So when you dash someone's point of view, you should do so politely. A, refute. B, rebuke. C, recall. D, refuse. Now, the appropriate word here is refute, because it is the word that fits in this particular situation. We are talking about someone's point of view. And when you refute someone's point of view, it means you disprove that point of view. You are saying that that point of view is wrong. And the word applicable is refute. R-E-F-U-T-E, refute. Now, option B is rebuke. The word rebuke is applicable, is more appropriate if you are talking about a person. If someone is wrong or you believe he is wrong, you rebuke him. You rebuke someone, but you refute someone's point of view. Option C is recall, and it cannot fit in this situation because to recall means to remember something or to recall someone from a particular position. Recall has different shades of meaning that do not really apply to the situation we are discussing in this sentence. D, refuse. When you refuse something, you reject it. And of course, it's not applicable in this situation. So the appropriate word is refute. And when we fix in it in this gap, it reads as follows. Let's test its grammaticality. When you refute someone's point of view, you should do so politely. That is, when you say that someone's opinion is wrong, you should do so politely. Okay, let's move on to question 12. One should dash the land very well if one expects a bumper harvest. Again, you see we have a gap that a word from the options A to D has to fill. And here we are dealing with the vocabulary of agriculture, or to be more specific, the vocabulary of farming. Because it is in farming you talk about land, you talk about harvest, and of course, if we look at the options, option A is water. It doesn't convey appropriate meaning if we put water in the gap. One should water the land very well if one expects a bumper harvest. It doesn't convey the intended meaning. Option B is dig, and we say one should dig the land very well if one expects a bumper harvest. It doesn't really make sense. Option C is cultivate. One should cultivate the land very well if one expects a bumper harvest. Option C is the appropriate word because it collocates with the context of land and bumper harvest here, which is within the vocabulary of farming. You know, when you talk of digging, you can dig a hole or dig a trench, but if you are tilling the ground, or you know, in order to plant crops, which is what the meaning intended here, the word is cultivate. So you can see that cultivate is among the words associated with agriculture or farming. All right, so that is the appropriate option. Now, question 13, his lecture was dashed, and so the students did not understand it. We have a gap here, which one of the words in options A to D has to fill in. His lecture was dashed, and so the students did not understand it. Now, if the students did not understand a lecture because it was somehow, then what does it really mean? Option A, indefinite. Well, that does not really fit in because indefinite is not a proper word to describe a lecture. So it's not an exact collocate of a lecture. We wouldn't be talking about an indefinite lecture. Then B, illegible. Illegible can describe someone's handwriting. If someone's handwriting is illegible, it means it is unclear and it is difficult to read. Option C is unintelligible. Unintelligible can be used to describe a language or someone's message. Now, if your language is unintelligible, it means one has problem on that difficulty understanding it. You know, so this is more appropriate in this particular situation. His lecture was unintelligible, and so the students did not understand it. When we talk about intelligible or unintelligible, or intelligibility, which is the noun form of it, we are talking about meaning, whether something conveys meaning or does not, whether something is meaningful or meaningless. And that is the appropriate word for this context. So we can say his lecture was unintelligible, and so the students did not understand it. The remaining option D is unimpressive. Now, a lecture may be unimpressive, yet the students could at least grasp some something, could understand something. But here, the lecture, the student didn't understand it at all, so it is unintelligible. Question 14. In botany, one is bound to dash flowers. In botany, one is bound to dash flowers. We have a gap here that one of the options has to fill in. But first, let's understand the context here. Botany is a study of plants and is a course of study at a university or a higher institution. And so it is a course of study. Now let's look at the option. Option A is read. In botany, one is bound to read flowers. Of course, you don't read flowers. It doesn't make sense. B, know. In botany, one is bound to know flowers. Really, that's not the intended meaning here. All right? There must be something more than just merely knowing flowers. All right? C is study, and that is the appropriate word. In botany, one is bound to study flowers. When you study something, that is what you are there to do. If you are pursuing, if you are studying botany at a university, you are there to study plants, and flowers are part of what you have to study. Now, option D is examine, and of course, that is not the exact collocate. You don't examine flowers, you study flowers, all right? Question 15. Harry cannot do without his dash of short stories because he loves reading, you know? So let's find the word that has to collocate with short stories, all right? Option A is file. It cannot fit in because when you are talking of a file, you can talk about a file of documents, but certainly not a file of short stories. B is library. You can talk about a library of books, but certainly not a library of short books or short stories, please. Option C is collection, and this is the appropriate option because you often hear people talk about a collection of short stories or a collection of poems. So this word collection is the appropriate word because it collocates with short stories. It is usually used together with short stories. That's what we mean by collocation. A group of 2 or 3 or more words that usually go together. Then the option D is dictionary. You can't hear people talking about a dictionary of short stories. You can hear people talking about a dictionary of words, all right? So that is exactly, that's exactly the word collection. And if we put it in the gap, we say Harry cannot do without his collection of short stories because he loves reading. All right, so question 16. Can you dash the result of tomorrow's match? Option A, conclude. B, predict. C, order. D, certify. Now, this is where semantics comes in because we have to look at the meaning, the meaning that the speaker or the writer intends to convey in a particular sentence. Now, can you dash the result of tomorrow's match? Of course, the obvious thing is, can you tell? That's a common word that can fit in there. can you tell or can you say the result of tomorrow's match? Now, if you can tell the outcome of a match that has not yet been played, the appropriate word is predict. So you often hear of people making predictions. You predict the results of tomorrow's match because that match has not yet been played. So it is about forecasting, right? So the appropriate word is predict. So if we put it in here, we have the sentence, can you predict the result of tomorrow's match? So that is correct. Question 17, the river dashed across the plain. A, rode, B, meandered, C, trickled, D, passed. Now, here we are dealing with the vocabulary of geography, and we are talking about the flowing of a river across the plain. Now, the appropriate word here is certainly not road. We cannot say the river road. It doesn't make sense. Then B, meandered. That's the appropriate word here because to meander is to, to pass through a place. You know, if a river is flowing and is flowing through certain rough surfaces, if it meets an obstacle along the road, it will take an alternative route. So it will meander across that part. It will find its way. So that's what we mean by meander. So if we put it in here, the sentence we read, the river meandered across the plain. The word meander is M-E-A-N-D-E-R-E-N-D, meandered. Question 18, since the army was no longer needed, it was dashed. A, demolished, B, dismantled, C, disbanded, D, fired. Now, here we are talking of an organized group of people. The army is a highly organized unit, and when you want to disperse the army, because that's what it means if you are sending a group of people to go their different ways and no longer be together, you disperse them. But the appropriate word when talking about the army is to disband. You disband an army. Option A, demolish, does not fit in here. You can demolish a structure, but certainly not an army. Option B is dismantle. You can also dismantle a structure, but certainly not an army. Option D is fired. You can fire an employee, but certainly not an army, which is an organized group of people. You disband an army. Question 19. It is most dash that the company spent 5 million naira on that fragile fence. A, outstanding, B, wonderful, C, remarkable, D, astonishing. First, we have to also look at the concept of tone here. From the speaker's tone, we can deduce the kind of word that should fit in here. Because here, the speaker uses a word fragile fence. And so if a company spent 5 million naira on a fragile fence is a fence that is not strong enough. So obviously, this speaker must have been disappointed with the development, or he must have been surprised or shocked by that kind of expenditure. So the appropriate word here is astonished. You know, yeah, that is astonishing. It is most astonishing that the company spent 5 million naira on that fragile fence. Of course, if you are describing a fence that a company spent 5 naira building as fragile, of course, you can't say it is outstanding. You cannot say it is wonderful. You cannot say it is remarkable. It can only be astonishing that such huge expenditure was made for construction a very fragile fence. Then question 20, matters that are confidential must not be made dash. A, public, B, popular, C, unreasonable, D, uncertain. Now, confidential is secret. So matters that are secret must not be made public. Option A is correct. Something secret, you don't make it public. Then option B, popular, is not actually correct. Option C, unreasonable. It doesn't fit in. Matters that are confidential must not be made unreasonable. It doesn't make sense. D, uncertain, doesn't also make sense. So the appropriate option is A. Matters that are confidential must not be made public. So this is where we draw the curtain in today's lesson. I believe you have learned some lessons that will be very helpful to you. So continue to study your books and practice your past questions. We shall be back next class to study section 3 of West African Senior School Certificate Examination, English Language 2 objective questions. So thank you for studying with us today at Learn at Home. Bye.
Many thanks for watching today's video. A big thank you to all of you out there for being part of today's episode. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, kindly subscribe to this channel. Subscribe now as a way of giving us support. For notification about new videos, click on the bell icon. You will find the bell icon. Click on it so that whenever a new video is uploaded, you will be instantly notified. If you have actually enjoyed the video, like and share the video with your friends and relatives. This is very important. If you have any comments, leave your comments below. Any questions, any suggestions, we would gladly receive them and respond promptly and positively to them. See you in the next video. I look forward to always seeing you in the new video.